Hi guys, what if I told you that the first person to troll the world wasn't on Twitter, but in ancient Greece, holding a lantern at high noon, searching for an honest man? What if I told you that the world's first financial scam didn't come from Wall Street, but from a kingdom buried under 3,000 years of dust? And what if I told you that one beggar with no money, no power, and no shoes had enough guts to throw a plucked chicken at Plato and call it philosophy? This isn't just history. This is a story about truth, greed, virtue, and the price of a dollar. So sit tight, because today we're diving deep into ancient scandals, timeless philosophy, and one question that still haunts us all. Is money evil, or are we just not ready to use it well? Let's find out. The intellectual nouveau riche and the virtuous dollar. In a market in the city of Athens, an old beggar was walking among the crowd, holding a lantern. People looked at him with curious mockery. After all, why would anyone carry a lantern at 10 a.m.? Sensing their curiosity, the beggar raised his voice and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm searching for an honest person. Does anyone know where I can find one? I've been shining this light for days, but I still haven't found one." In the most sacred place,
in ancient Greek society, there was only one Diogenes, but thousands, even tens of thousands, of scholars, nobles, and officials. And yet they all feared him. Take Plato, for example. After being roasted by Diogenes for his definition of man, Plato quickly revised it to something more accurate. Viewed positively, figures like Diogenes, with their capacity for dissent and critique, were the moral sentinels of society, the guardians of the ethical temple. 3 centuries before Diogenes' time, across the Aegean Sea, just 300 kilometers from Athens, lay the land of Lydia. There, local miners discovered a rare alloy with a golden, amber-like hue. They named it electrum, from the ancient Greek word for amber. This natural alloy of gold and silver was soon used by the Lydian royal court to mint the world's first metal coins. These precious metal coins quickly became a trend, prompting Greek city-states to follow suit. Thus began the true history of money and global finance, and with it, the first financial scam in human history. The perpetrators? None other than the coin minters of the Lydian kingdom. The shocking part? It took over 1,000 years for the world to realize they had been scammed. Here's what happened. During archaeological excavations on the Anatolian Peninsula, researchers found early coins minted by the Lydians. These coins typically contained 45 to 55% gold, but modern analyses of electrum, mined in ancient Lydia, show the natural alloy held 70 to 90% gold, with only 10 to 30% silver. What does this mean? It means the Lydian mint workers, the godfathers of material skimming, had diluted the naturally rich alloy by adding more silver, profiting off the difference. Now, let's evaluate this issue. Look at the two stories involving the skimming of precious metals during coin production, one from Diogenes' family, and the other from the Lydian minters. Though separated by 300 years, they appear similar in nature, as both reflect human greed and dishonesty. But while the nature of the acts was the same, the outcomes were vastly different. The Lydian mint workers were recorded in financial history as the orchestrators of the first monetary fraud. As for Diogenes, the scandal involving his father indirectly led him down a philosophical path, helping him become a brilliant thinker and one of the founding fathers of cynicism. To diminish the perceived value of money in the real world, many schools of thought have used spiritual metaphors. A popular example is a cartoon image of a billionaire arriving at the gates of hell with 2 suitcases full of cash. The Grim Reaper stops him and says, "You leave everything here. Only your soul, your virtues, and your sins may enter." This message works like a painkiller for the poor and like a dose of dopamine for the rich, awakening their conscience and encouraging charitable giving.
I once heard someone say, the poor die, the rich die, the beautiful die, the ugly die, the happy die, the miserable die, the joyful die, the suffering also die. Ultimately, all that poetic redundancy boils down to one thing. We are all going to die. The end. But then, why not live a life of wealth, comfort, and happiness before we die? Why do we mentally torture ourselves by hating money and judging those who have it? If we're not wise enough to grasp the nuances of philosophical ideas, we may end up unjustly resenting the world and becoming confused within our own hearts. Ask yourself, do you hate money? Or are you just lazy? Do you hate the rich? Or are you secretly envious of their lives? Money is something of value, but by nature it is inanimate, meaning it has no ability to harm people on its own. Whether money is good or evil depends entirely on who's holding it. To prove this, let's travel to India in the 20th century. There is a US-based charity called Smile Train, which provides free cleft lip and palate surgeries for children from poor families all over the world. One day, they arrived in Chennai, one of India's 3 largest industrial and commercial centers. A Smile Train staff member asked a man, "Sir, how many children do you have?" The man replied, "I have 1 child." When they checked his profile, it was true. He had 1 son. But it also revealed something else. He had 5 daughters. In other words, the existence of his daughters was not even acknowledged by him. Smile Train then conducted further investigation and discovered something horrifying. In Chennai, midwives could be paid $2.50 USD to suffocate a newborn baby girl born with a cleft palate, if the family requested it. To counter this, Smile Train made a humanitarian offer. Any midwife who brought a baby girl with a cleft palate to the hospital for surgery would be rewarded $10 US. From that moment, the number of infant girls with cleft conditions being murdered dropped significantly. It's a small story, but packed with massive lessons. Lesson 1. Some parents in Chennai were willing to pay $2.50 to have their disabled daughters killed, while Smile Train was offering $10 to save them. It's all US dollars, but the purpose changes everything. Some dollars are stamped with virtue, while others are stained with the label murderer. Lesson 2. Every human, even a murderer, has conscience. I believe that before the midwives killed a cleft-affected baby girl, they probably convinced themselves, I'm doing this out of kindness, out of compassion, not for $2.50. They may have thought, a disabled child will burden the family and society. That child will never be happy growing up. My friends, this is rationalization, and it's deeply human. When we do something wrong, we instinctively find excuses. We blame others, blame society, blame fate, even blame God, all to convince ourselves we're innocent, pure, and victims. rather than the ones truly at fault. So now let us ask again. If money is lifeless, neutral, and has no will of its own, then why do we project so many emotions onto it? Why do some people worship it while others demonize it? The truth is, money is a mirror. It reflects the soul of the one who holds it. In the hands of a saint, it becomes a tool for compassion. In the hands of a criminal, it fuels destruction. Money doesn't shape the world. People do, using money as their instrument. Back to the idea of intellectual nouveau riche. In every generation, we've had those who accumulate not just wealth, but knowledge, social status, and cultural capital, only to wield them like trophies, disconnected from compassion, humility, or moral integrity. To Diogenes, such people were not noble philosophers or enlightened elites. They were simply pretentious beggars in fancy robes, drunk on their own image. That's why he chose the path of rejection, rejecting not knowledge itself, but the arrogance that came with misused knowledge. Not money itself, but the corruption and self-deception it often inspired. His entire life was a form of protest, a living satire aimed at the lies we tell ourselves to justify greed, pride, and cruelty. And even though Diogenes lived over 2 millennia ago, his lantern still shines. Not because it finds honest people, but because it continues to remind us how hard it is to be one.